Hey, what's up, guys? It's Kyle again today on a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Just got finished watching the UFC Rio pay-per-view. I know that was yesterday, but I watched it online today for free. Like I do most pay-per-views, I watch them for free online. Anyway, yeah. So I meant to make this video, I think, since yesterday or whatever. But this video is mainly for talking about my frustration with TNA. I kind of wish I would have made this at least by Friday, because then I would have been able to express all of my frustration a little bit better. Since I've kind of cooled down now, I might forget to rant on some things and my frustration with TNA. But anyway, I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, so my frustrations with TNA currently right now. Where do I start? Okay. One of the things I think that's a problem for TNA is that they just have TNA has too many people in authority. You know what I mean? Whether it's Hogan, Bischoff, Vince Russo, a whole bunch of other guys. There's just too many people that are calling shots in TNA, and I think that's one of the things that kind of ruins the company, because it's you don't have a main focus. You know what I mean? Someone who can come up with the ideas and lead the company into the next level. Like Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was the driving force, still is the driving force for the WWE, regardless of Triple H's current position. What Triple H is doing on TV, Vince McMahon is still has his hand in the cookie jar. Eric Bischoff, although WCW was owned by Ted Turner, but you had Eric Bischoff, who was taking Ted Turner's money or whatever and using it for good causes and good reasons. So Eric Bischoff was the main focus, the main guy calling shots in WCW. When you look at ECW, you had Paul Heyman, who was the main focus. The guy that was calling shots for everything in ECW. Even in the Ring of Honor, you have, I would like to say, Jim Cornette, who's somewhat calling the shots, within Ring of Honor. Him and I think Kevin Kelly too. But I'm just using these guys as an example. There's no more than just one or two people who make most of the decisions within the company. Within TNA, you've got Dixie, Hulk Hogan, Bischoff, Russo, and a whole bunch of other people underneath them that are calling shots. And I think that's one of the problems with TNA, is that they don't have that one main authority figure within the company that can, direct the talent and, tell, what's going to work, what's not going to work, you know what I mean? And, I'm not a male chauvinist at all. I think a woman can, work any type of corporate job that a man can work. Like I said, I'm not being a male chauvinist when I say this, but I really think as far as the wrestling business aspect, Dixie Carter doesn't know jack about wrestling whatsoever. And I'm not saying that women in general don't know anything about wrestling, that it's a man's thing, but I just think she has no experience, you know what I mean, or no knowledge in wrestling. And, Dixie Carter, I think she's just too sweet and just too nice of a person, And, you have guys like Bischoff and Hogan, who are very well known of, getting what they want and kind of sweet-talking you, to getting what they want. I think they do that a lot with Dixie Carter. And so Dixie just, she just says, oh, okay, well, yay, you guys know what's best, And it's she just turns the other cheek and just looks the other way. And I think that's one of the reasons why TNA has just really failed so much and not really gone to the next level, is because Dixie Carter's not watching what other people are doing with her company, and she's not really having any type of input on where the company should go or what they should do, because she doesn't have any experience in the wrestling business. And I clearly remember, years ago when TNA had that little when TNA had separated from NWA, and where TNA was trying to, Jeff Jarrett was trying to scrounge around for some money, trying to find a way, to keep TNA stabilized and keep them, on as an independent company, because they've cut their ties with NWA, or just the NWA cut their ties with TNA. Jeff Jarrett was looking, for ways in, trying to scrounge up money to keep, like I said, TNA thriving as an independent company. And Dixie Carter, I clearly remember the statement where years ago where it said that Dixie Carter looked into the wrestling market and realized that WWE is the only company within the wrestling market, and that she saw an opportunity in TNA. She saw a great business or marketing opportunity in TNA, so that's why she bought it. You know what I mean? And personally, I think the more wrestling businesses, the better. That's great because that leaves more places where talent can go. And it's also great, for fans because you don't have to be stuck watching one company if they're doing something that you don't like. You can just switch the channel and go to another company. And that was so great about the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWE. But the fact that Dixie Carter, she just looked at it as like, oh, this is a way where I can make money instead of looking at it as like, I don't know. Instead of looking at it as like, this is another, this is an opportunity where I can, make a wrestling business and, make it grow and maybe hopefully one day compete with the WWE. But no, like I said, I just don't. So that's one of the problems I have with TNA. I think they have too many. TNA tries to serve too many masters and too many people. Another problem I have with TNA is that they're not very consistent in anything they've done. At least until at least when Hogan and Bischoff came in, they've not been consistent with anything. And what I mean by that, for example, Mr. Anderson. And in this example I'll give you, it's also not only based on consistency, but also the bad booking in TNA as well. But Mr. Anderson, a lot of people don't like Mr. Anderson. A lot of people say he's overrated. Other people find him annoying. I'm a fan of Mr. Anderson. I like Mr. Anderson when he was in WWE. Was upset at the fact that, when he got fired from WWE and he was released from his contract, I'm like, wow, that sucks. But then when I heard that TNA was going to pick him up, and, when he made his debut at the Genesis pay-per-view last year, I was excited because I'm like, okay, Mr. Anderson is back. Maybe he could get a chance that WWE didn't give him. And Anderson did get a great push in WWE, but, his whole thing with Randy Orton kind of put a halt to that. But still, him coming into TNA, I'm like, okay, so this is a second chance, for Anderson to get it right. And, hopefully TNA can give him a chance, like I said, that WWE has never given him. And, when Anderson came into TNA, he was white hot. People loved Anderson. And, he wins his first world title, early this year. Keeps it for like 2 weeks, drops it to Jeff Hardy, who drops the belt to Sting 2 weeks after that. And we all know what happened with the Jeff Hardy thing, but I'm just talking about Mr. Anderson. So Sting is his current champion. Anderson spends 3 months chasing Sting for the title, which I enjoy because I've always liked it. When it's always a chase for the title. We have the babyface chasing the heel chasing the babyface for the belt. I always think that that's a great build-up for that. For those two to eventually lock up and go head to head with the title. So Anderson's chasing Sting for 3.5 months for the title, gets his shot at Slammiversary, wins. I'm like, okay, great. He wins the title. Hopefully they give him a good round with it. Then 5 days later, after he wins the world title, they have him lose his first match as the new world champion to a nobody like Gunner. What the hell? Like, you spent 3 months on this guy chasing Sting. He finally gets the belt, and then 5 days removed after the pay-per-view, you have your new world champion lose to an undercard wrestler like Gunner? That's bad booking. You don't do that. When you have a new world champion, who's just coming off, from all this steam and all this build-up he's had and chasing Sting for the title, finally gets it. He's hot now, and you have him to lose to a nobody. Like, why the hell would you do that? It doesn't make your champion look strong. Any guy that you have that you're investing in and you make him a world champion, you don't let his first few matches where he just loses just to random people. You don't do that. I mean, your champion loses his sting, he loses his credibility, and as a viewer watching this, you're like, why are you the world champion? Because you're like, you just lost to, an undercard guy like Gunner, or, this guy or that guy. They're not on your same level. So seems like to me you don't deserve to be the world champion because you're losing to a bunch of nobodies. That's the perspective an average wrestling fan will get if they, when they see crap like that. So then after that, we don't see Anderson wrestle on Impact for the following 2 weeks. He just cuts promos and does whatever he does on TV. And then 3 weeks after he wins his world title or whatever, after his anniversary, he loses the belt right back to Sting. And that's something else I don't understand with TNA. I love Sting. Sting is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. One of the wrestlers I grew up loving as a child growing up. He is an icon. He is a legend. But Sting does not need a world title. If you add Sting's world championship resume from WCW and TNA put together, Sting is like a 14 or 15-time world champion. He doesn't need a belt to get over with the fans. He's already paid his dues. He's a veteran. He's a legend. He's an icon. He's still going to get huge pops. He doesn't need a belt to get over with people. Once again, I think that's just Dixie Carter just playing favoritism. Like, she just really loves Sting a lot. Sting doesn't need the freaking belt. And then on top of that, and then Sting loses the belt two or 3 weeks later to Kurt Angle. Like, where's the consistency? Like, you're having the belt hop around. Like, in the past month and a half, the TNA World title has jumped through 3 people. Anderson, Sting, Kurt Angle. Like, what the hell? And I hate when a lot of wrestling comes, and WWE has done it too sometimes, where they take a world title and they play hot potato with it. To me, when you play hot potato with the title, that title begins to lose its prestige, and it's like, what the hell is you guys even in here fighting for? And that's what TNA has done for the past, 6 or 7 months as of late. The TNA World title has just been a hot potato. It's just been jumping from Anderson to Jeff Hardy to Sting, back to Anderson, back to Sting, now currently Kurt Angle. I don't get that. Another frustration I have with TNA, and I think a lot of people will agree with this too, is that they push way too many veterans, in my opinion. Like I said, once again, I love Sting, favorite wrestler, but it's time for Sting to hang up the boots. It really is. It's time for him to hang it up. Ric Flair, considered one of the greatest of all time, 16-time world champion. But to me, seeing Ric Flair going out there acting like an old fool, no pun intended, but really just acting like an old fool, to me, it's like he tarnishes his legacy that he's left behind. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're sitting down with your son or a family member or a friend, like, that guy used to be one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And you're looking at him now and you're seeing, Ric Flair getting beat out of his clothes and getting, a bloodbath. You're saying to yourself, like, really? This guy was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time? Like, I can't tell because he's getting the hell beat out of him. He's making a fool out of himself. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Guys like Scott Steiner, who's like 48 or 49, he's entering his 50s. Scott Steiner. I'm trying to think who else. Some other veterans. Scott Steiner. I love Kurt Angle, but I'll get on that in a sec. Kurt Angle, Scott Steiner, Sting, Bully Ray, Devon. All these guys who are veterans are getting up so much TV time. You know what I mean? That by the time everything is done, that they don't have time to focus on the young talent, and I think that's a problem with TNA. You know what I mean? They just focus too much on the veterans. They really need to, in my opinion, I'd get rid of all veterans. If it was me, I'd get rid of all veterans and get a whole bunch of guys in their mid-late 20s that nobody even knows. They don't know their names at all, and make those guys stars. Because guys that you have in your mid-to-late 20s to early 30s, these are going to be the guys that are going to stay and probably still be within the company within the next 10 to 20 years, or 10 to 15 years. Guys like Sting, Bully Ray, Devon, and Scott Steiner, and even Kurt Angle, they don't have much gas left in the tank. Those guys aren't going to be around and carry the company for the next 10 or 15 years. they're way past their prime. They've done their time in the business. Let them go. But once again, Dixie Carter being so nice, she doesn't want to fire anybody. She wants to befriend everyone and all of her employees. She's just so good and kind-hearted that she doesn't believe in firing the veterans. And like I said, then when you look at it, it's like, TNA is like a freaking retirement home. You know what I mean? Another thing I think a problem with TNA is that, and like I said, if it was me, if I was running TNA, I'd get rid of all the veterans except Kurt Angle, because in my opinion, Kurt Angle is the only veteran left, and the only veteran in that company that can still go with any guy in his 30s or 20s. So I'd keep Kurt Angle, but I wouldn't use Kurt Angle as much as TNA has been using Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle's at that stage where he's really banged up. So I'd use Kurt Angle periodically, on special occasions here and there, like a Bound for Glory or a Lockdown, some of TNA's biggest pay-per-view events. But if I was to keep a veteran, he'd be the only veteran I keep around, hands down, no question, doubt about that. I get rid of everyone. I get rid of everyone else. Another thing that I don't understand with TNA, like I said, I just had it, I just lost it for a sec there. It's like they push the wrong people, and then they fire and get rid of a lot of good people. Like for example, like they got rid of Jay Lethal. How do you get rid of Jay Lethal? I'm a huge Jay Lethal fan. Jay Lethal, 5-time X Division champ, one of the TNA originals. How do you get rid of great talent like that? I don't understand. He's young, he can go. Sure, he's not that great. He's not the greatest guy on the mic, but I mean, still, good God. That's some good talent there. They got rid of Amazing Red like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They let Amazing Red go. How the hell do you get rid of Amazing Red? He was one of the original X Divisions in TNA. And you're talking about rebuilding the TNA division? Don't just rebuild the TNA division with a bunch of brand new guys. Keep some of the old guys around, because those are some of the guys that most TNA fans are familiar with. You know what I mean? And these are some of the guys that can teach the younger guys that TNA are bringing in how to work an X Division style match. But instead, they're getting rid of all of the original X Division wrestlers and just putting in a bunch of, new guys. Although some of the new guys that they've had hired I already know, like Austin Aries, who I think was great. I'm glad I had mixed emotions for Austin Aries being in TNA. I'm glad that he's in TNA, but then I'm also not so glad because he might not get much TV time, and they might not push him either. So, like I said, I had mixed emotions for Austin Aries, but I am a big Austin Aries fan. But, guys like Austin Aries, Zema Ion, who I know as well, he comes from, he's worked in Shakira and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Kid Cash is another guy who I've known as well, and I've seen around, in indie stuff. So, but I'm just saying, for the typical average fan who does not watch indie wrestling or know anything about indie wrestling, or know these guys from indie wrestling, it's new to them, just like, okay, who the hell are these guys, you know what I mean? Like I said, like I said, with TNA, it's just, like I said, those are just some of the things I think that's a problem with TNA. And even with this faction, Immortal was crap. I'm not gonna lie. To me, I thought they were a decent faction, like when they first revealed to who they were, because you had Jeff Hardy, who made a heel turn for the first time, which was shocking to everyone, and then you had all the members of Fortune, who also joined in with Immortal. So it was a pretty nice, star power faction. But when you had Jeff Hardy, screw up and did what he did, and then you had Fortune, turn from Immortal, only due to the fact that, they were going to bring back the Main Event Mafia, but, that turned out. Nash and Booker turned down TNA's offer to show up at the Royal Rumble this year. So I can understand why they had to force Fortune to be as they, when originally it was supposed to be the Main Event Mafia. But once Fortune and, Jeff Hardy left, and Jeff Hardy had his little screw-up thing that happened, Fortune has just been a group of nothing but jobbers. Bully Ray and Scott Steiner and Gunner and Abyss. There's no key talent in Immortal. You know what I mean? I think they should just get rid of it because, like I said, there's no key talent in that faction. And that's another thing too. Going back, how a lot of stuff in TNA doesn't really make sense. Like with Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, goes around saying he's an a-hole and everything else. And, you have Hulk Hogan, tempting him to want to come and, join Immortal. And he turns him down each and every time. But then he joins Immortal. But then he kind of has a feud with Bully Ray inside of his faction. And now it's like he's turning away from Immortal and kind of going against them after being with them for like 2 weeks. It's like, what the hell are you doing, TNA? Are you going to make Anderson a babyface, or are you going to make him a heel? I think Anderson is good at being, in my opinion, I think Anderson is better being a heel than he is a babyface. Although I think he can play both roles really well, I just like him better as a heel than a babyface. But it's like with TNA, it's like they don't know what they want to do with Anderson. It's like, today you're going to be a babyface, tomorrow you're going to be a heel, but you're going to do something to make you seem like you're a babyface, and then the week after that you're going to be turning back into a full-fledged heel, and then maybe we'll make you babyface again next month. Like, what are you doing? Like, you having Anderson switch on and off like that, babyface heel, fans are going to lose interest in him, and fans aren't going to want to invest in Anderson. And I think that's a darn shame, because I think Anderson is a very interesting character and a good wrestler. Another thing that doesn't make sense, turning Kurt Angle heel. Why would you turn Kurt Angle heel? It does not make sense. Now, Kurt Angle is another guy who I think can play well at both sides of the fence, being a heel or a face. But right now, it does not make sense for Kurt Angle to be a heel. You have like 6 wrestlers in Immortal who are all heels. All the guys in Fortune are faces, so there's like 4 or 5 guys. They're all faces, but they're not getting any TV time. They're not feuding with anybody. You have Sting, who's a good guy, but somewhat has lost his mind. It's like, who do you have as a good guy to battle and go up against Immortal? Like I said, you have Anderson, who's confused. Or I won't say Anderson himself, but the creative team, they're confused as to what they should make Anderson a face or a heel. So that's out of the box. So it's like they don't have enough faces, and you turn the one guy who's a face into a heel, and he seems to be aligning himself with Immortal, which contains Jeff Jarrett, which is led by Jeff Jarrett, and his wife, Karen, who Kurt Angle has had a hatred, bitter rivalry, real-life rivalry feud for like the past 7 or 8 months, but then he allies himself with them. That doesn't make sense. It's like, why the hell would you have Kurt Angle, who's had a feud with Jeff Jarrett and his ex-wife Karen for the past 7.5 to 8 months, and then turn him heel and join the faction that's led by Jeff Jarrett and his ex-wife Karen? It's like, what are you thinking? That does not make sense. I mean, you think realistically, I don't care how much Dixie Carter, promised me that she'd surround me with a bunch of young guys and I'm going to take the young guys out. I wouldn't dare ally myself with a group that's led by my worst enemy who slept with my wife and caused a divorce in my marriage. I wouldn't do that. So, like, why would TNA have Kurt Angle to do that? That doesn't make sense. If anything, it would have been better if Kurt Angle just did what he said he was going to do, and that's just beat up the young talent, but not ally himself with Immortal. But it seems like what they're doing is they're having him ally himself with Immortal. So I don't get that at all. Another thing I think that holds TNA back is that they stay in Orlando, Florida way too much. I think Orlando, Florida is going to kill TNA. I know that they're on the road now for some tapings. They did a taping for the show last week. This was going to air this week. which features the return of Jeff Hardy. Yay. So yeah, so they have about 2 or 3 tapings, so they're going to be hitting on the road. But I mean, literally, like that Orlando studio place is going to kill TNA. I think that's another thing that's going to kill them, because not all those fans in TNA are wrestling marks or TNA fans whatsoever. All those people in that audience attendance are nothing but tourists who are coming to see, you know, the attraction. That's it. And which, like I said, I don't understand that either. Like, how come TNA can't travel? I mean, you have Ring of Honor. That's an indie show. Well, it was, since they got bought by Sinclair. Ring of Honor, before they got a TV deal with Sinclair, Ring of Honor had been on the road, you know, as an indie show. And they're still doing it, and they're still on the road now, even with Sinclair. They don't have the type of money that TNA has. Well, they probably do now, but if not more. Now, like I said, with Sinclair, but still. Let's just put Sinclair out of the equation. Ring of Honor, without Sinclair, have no money, but they still travel from different places around the city and out of state. And they have no money. And, like I said, their equipment isn't as quality, and they don't have the type of perks that TNA would have. But yet TNA has money like Panda Energy behind them. They have a rent-free building like Orlando Studios. They have a great deal with Spike TV. And like I said, and they have, you know, legit quality cameras and stuff like that, production value. And you mean to tell me you don't have the finances to travel? What the hell? But yet you have a show, an indie show like Ring of Honor, who pays their guys, say like, you know, probably like $50 or $80 an appearance, or maybe $100 an appearance, paying these guys peanuts. The production value isn't the best, but they can afford to travel around different places. That looks bad to me. I mean, really, that looks bad for TNA, because it's like you have these finances, you have the rent-free studio, TV deal, and everything else, but you don't have the finances to travel. But yet you have Ring of Honor, who, you know, like I said, but didn't have any money, but they're still able to travel. And even now, through Sinclair Broadcasters, they've been bought out to this huge TV station, they're still being able to, they're still traveling, even with Sinclair. And, you know, and they even said, you know, it's going to take some time, you know, within the next 6 months to a year, where they will, you know, update their equipment and stuff like that, you know, to have a better, you know, legit production value-wise when you see them on TV. Then, you know, well, it won't look more like an indie show, but, you know, more like I said, a legit national wrestling promotion. But still, even with that, they're still able to travel. I don't get that at all with TNA. I've said it like 3 years ago, and I'll say it again to this day. And like I said, I was at the Ring of Honor event when Ring of Honor had that first TV taping here in Chicago, August 13th. Not TNA, but Ring of Honor will surpass TNA. I guarantee it. They have the best talent. They know how to book. They know how to book their darn talent. They're the best wrestlers, young wrestlers at that. I'm not doubting TNA. TNA has a good crop of talent too, but you wouldn't know that because they focus so much on Sting and Angle and Hogan and Bischoff and Flair. You don't get to see the young talent, so you don't know. But they do have the TNA does have good talent, but they just don't utilize them. And so, like I said, I guarantee you, within the next 2 or 3 years from now, Ring of Honor will surpass TNA. And TNA, if they don't get their crap together, they will be number 3 instead of number 2, or they'll just fold and completely all together. So this is just my frustration video with TNA. Let me know what you guys think later.